Death is just a letting go of a physical form. You know, who you are doesn't die. The essence of you lives forever. It's eternal. It's immortal. We drop bodies occasionally, you know. We use the bodies hopefully for all the experiences that they give us. We need the body for our experiences, for growth. And when it's time, you drop the body, just like you drop an old car. But you, who you are, doesn't die, you know. You're eternal, immortal. Funny thing is, people want to know about life after death, you know? And I'm really only interested in people that want to know how to live before they die. It's just a little bit of a difference, you know? It's really about how you're going to live this life, not after you die, you know? Yeah, you know, it's a tricky thing, because one of the things that we see with this is a lot of people are alone. You know, there's a huge amount of people that are quarantined by themselves, or living by themselves, and there's a tremendous amount of loneliness in that, oftentimes a tremendous amount of fear or anxiety associated with that, and they're trying to cope and deal with them themselves, and so we see that often. But on the other hand, we see people that are using this opportunity to kind of reach out and connect with other people. I know people that really will tell you forever they're antisocial, but with the coronavirus and the fact that they're isolated at home, all of a sudden have a different kind of dialogue with their loved ones, a different dialogue with their community than before, than ever in some cases. And so I think that's very, very effective. I think that I think one of the things that people can do that would help a lot is short of throwing their television out the window, is unplugging it, you know, or throwing the remote maybe out the window, you know, because I think that the amount of negative information we get has such an incredible impact on people's sense of well-being. And you know, the fact of the matter is that where we put our attention, we live where we put our attention. And so if our attention is continuously on all the world's problems, then guess what? That's the world in which we're living in. And there's a different level of fear and anxiety and discord from that than if you threw the remote out the window. And it's an interesting dynamic, because, for example, there's been 2 studies done in the past. One was a marathon bombing in Boston, Massachusetts, in my country, where people finishing the marathon, many of them were killed by a bomb. And the other event was an earthquake in Mexico City, a bad earthquake in the last 5 years or so. In each case, people far removed from those physical locations, but watching it for 6 hours or more on television, replay, experienced more anxiety, literally more anxiety, than the people that were there at ground zero, the people that were there at the event itself. The people watching it on television continuously for 6 hours or more had a higher level of angst. It's a fascinating thing what TV can do for us. And there are people that I know that watch. They believe they have to stay on top of this thing and what's happening in the world, and they'll watch TV 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day. Not good. Not good for their well-being. Not good for the family or whatever. You know, it creates an incredible amount of stress. And so I would encourage people living at home by themselves to throw the remote out the window. It's cheaper than throwing the TV. And the second thing is that if they didn't have a meditation practice, if they didn't have a practice of going inward so that they could get to this place where everything's okay, then I would encourage them to grab a book and not grab a book about anything other than something that's going to inspire them, something that's going to create a different sense of awe and wonder, because that's going to elevate them. I would encourage them to spend every day, if they didn't have a practice, and do a gratitude journal and write down all those areas every day that they're grateful for, because you cannot be fearful and grateful at the same time. You know, you can't be anxious and grateful at the same time. You can't be even angry and grateful at the same time. And so if your attention every day, living by yourself, is to put a lot of attention on what I'm grateful for, that's going to neutralize or offset a lot of the days where we've focused on stress and fear. You know, so we have to, you know, we're not a victim to this, but we have to sometimes be proactive, and sometimes left to yourself, especially with the remote thrown out the window, you need to do some things that are going to create some peace at home. And they can do that. We just have to tell them, you know, they just have to know. My message would be pretty simple, actually. My message would be to every human being: wake up and roar. Wake up and roar. You know, wake up. There's an opportunity for each and every one to experience divinity within ourselves. The responsibility each and every one of us has is to wake up and roar. Go to the highest mountain and share that. None of us are victims. You know, we're not. We're actually incredible creators. And the world needs to know that they need to wake up from this. That they can't live this entire life of suffering and believe it's real. That they got to be able to transcend this. And that peace is a choice, you know? That's what I would tell them. If every human being knew that peace was a choice, they would start looking for it. Our job is to tell them that peace is a choice. We can either choose to be miserable and suffer, or we can choose to experience kindness, compassion, and love. That's our choice. You know, the fact is that everywhere I go and give talks, I will say to people, and it doesn't make a difference if they're 90 years old or 9, what do you want? What do you want more than anything? And they, other than a couple of the kids saying, I want the new Nintendo Xbox, or somebody saying, I want a Ferrari, typically 90% of the people say, I want peace or I want joy. That, no matter what the demographic is that I'm talking to. And that's wonderful. But the reality is that if you go into a prison environment, and I've done this, I mean, serious prison environment where everybody in that prison is in prison for life, and you say, what do you want more than anything? Peace is number one. Joy is number one. And the fact of the matter is that there's no community on earth that would be different than that. No matter what their social status is, their income status would not make a difference. They want peace. Our job is to help them find peace. You know, we're here on earth to help people be happy. That's our job. And if we can do that, they're going to create a different kind of life. And as a result of that, consciousness is going to raise, and we're going to create a different kind of world. That's incredibly important. And it starts with each and every one of us. Sometimes we forget about that, and we're pointing outside, you know, angry and critical of the government or whatever, you know, so there's constant criticism and kind of finger pointing outside. And we forget that that's not going to solve anything, that being able to affect change from the still clear place within us is the only way that it's going to work. And people have to know that. And ironically, you know how they find out about it more than anything? Word of mouth. So each of you, you know, if you're a pillar of peace in your community, people are going to say, I want what she has. You know, she has something, I want that. Because they know it's resonating within them that there's something more and different than what they're experiencing. We need to be that. We need to fully be the bringers of joy, the bringers of peace, the bringers of hope. Just hope that there's a different way of being, you know, because so many people don't have hope. And you say, wait a minute, I've been where you are, you know, you can experience peace too, and you bring hope to them. How beautiful, what a good job description. Yeah, and that's a very interesting question in itself, because it's a question oftentimes people ask me, and the fact of the matter is that you can't make any significant permanent change or impact on a global, national level without working on human consciousness. It just won't work. Any of the things you come up with without having that as your basis of developing and expanding human consciousness, the solutions are going to be limited. And so there's many things that people are inspired to do to affect change. There's many things that people are inspired to do to help others, which is really wonderful. But the fact of the matter is that we've got to do a better job everywhere of raising human consciousness so that the solution can come from a different place than the problems came from, you know? It's not much of a different message, really. You know, the fact of the matter is that, you know, in driving through very, very tough areas of the United States or in Mexico in the last few years, for example, I will go into very poor areas and I see more happy Mexicans in the poor areas than the rich areas. You know, I'll stop and get petrol, or I'll stop and get something to eat at a convenience store or whatever, and there's a different level of happiness oftentimes with them than I get when I'm in the higher demographic income areas of Mexico or the United States. So it's not, you know, living in those marginal areas alone, it doesn't mean that you can't be okay, that you can't be at peace, that you can't be happy. You can. You just need a tool. And the fact of the matter is, the same tool that you use is a tool that would help people in those communities significantly. You know, I'm a great proponent of going in and teaching anybody in lower income areas, the people that don't have any money, to put together programs to help them gratis, you know, for free, without charging them, and seeing what happens. But there's no way, shape, or form that that even in those dire circumstances they're living in, that they can't have a quality of peace on the inside. And I'll give you a good example of that. You know, as you know, we teach a lot in maximum security prisons, and in some of those prison environments, the daily life is incredibly violent. The one I was in one many years ago, it's the largest maximum security prison in Latin America for women. And some of those women hadn't had a good night's sleep in 15 years. They're terrified of falling asleep because they're afraid somebody's going to kill them at night. They're just afraid. And when we taught them how to ascend, some of them said for the first time in their memory, they could experience peace, that they could have a good night's sleep. When I asked them what they wanted more than anything else before they learned, these are in a hardcore prison environment. None of them said to get out of prison. If I could have any one wish, none of them said the one thing I want more than anything is to get out of prison. The first thing they said is, I want peace. They said, because you could open that front door to the prison tomorrow, and if I didn't have peace, I'm in trouble. And my sense is that you know, I can't go back into my old world with my same thought stream. You know, I have to take my head with me. And so what I want more than that is peace, because if I can get over the anger that I'm feeling, the guilt that I'm feeling, the shame that I'm feeling, if I can transcend that and experience peace, that's what I want more than to get out of this environment. And it doesn't mean they don't want to get out of prison. Certainly they do, but they recognize clearly that they need peace more than they need that. And my sense is it'd be the same in the marginal communities.